Harrison, born Antoine Smalls, has transracial identity, identifying as Harrison Booth, a 35-year-old white man from Colorado. And when did you know that you were a 35-year-old white man?
Well, I've always felt different. I go to the store, the movies, and just be thinking to myself, like, why am I not getting the respect I deserve? And then it just hit me. I'm white and 35.
So how do you embrace your identity? Before Harrison can fully realize his physical identity, he still has the day-to-day that's filled with discrimination and ridicule.
It's pretty awful, you know, you're walking the streets and black people, they see you, they're nodding to you like, hey, good to see us. And it's to the point where I've just given up. I've stopped trying to convince them that I'm not us.
Welcome to our new listeners and to our regular listeners. Welcome to Specificity. Spell it S.P.E.C.I.F.I.C.I.T.Y, where we ask specific questions about specific topics, getting specific answers. The meaning of specificity is the state of being clearly defined or identified, to be precise, exact, or distinguished. All right, joining me today is Donelle Cole, the founder of Almighty Already LLC, a mentor, business consultant, financial coach, author, and a plethora of other things. We've already spoken a little about this week's topic, how to self-publish a book. Let's get to the questions.
Let's go.
Tell me one thing positive, one thing helpful going on right now.
One thing I think that's positive going on right now in my life, man, would be the new children's book that I just released called The Caterpillar's Dream. It's been making a huge impact, far beyond what I imagined when I initially stepped into the project.
Talk to us about that impact.
So I wrote this book called The Caterpillar's Dream. In my first book, I wrote this book called From Living the Legacy Beyond the Barriers of Mediocrity. And one of the barriers that I faced in my growth and development, considering I grew up in inner city, was the concept of identity. And so I love this concept so much because I started to recognize something that's powerful about life. And it's just that the idea or identity that you take in life kind of governs the perception of reality that you get to have in your life, because everything stems from the frame of reference of who you believe you are, right? And so as I was talking to my wife, I said, man, I wish there was a way I could take this concept and put it into a children's book called The Caterpillar's Dream. And so I wrote this book about a caterpillar who's trying to find her lane. She's petite, small, feels insecure. And what she does is she goes out in this village where she sees an ant that's doing construction. So she's like, hey, maybe I can try doing this construction because he looks happy. Doesn't work out for her. She's like, hey, you found your lane. She sees a honeybee who has a food truck, and she says, hey, well, you look happy cooking. Who taught you to cook? So she tries that. That doesn't work out. So she hears music, gets with a cricket, tries doing music. That doesn't work out. And so what she does is she's taking on this journey of self-discovery. And it's written in poetic form. So it has some major gems with it. And the impact that I like is that it's allowed parents to be able to share like a really big lesson with kids that I feel like has been transformative. And so I'm taking that book and making it into a curriculum, but we're also working on making it into a play as well. That way we can take some of these concepts. You know, we go through life and we say, man, if I only do this while I was younger, you know, and being able to take those steps to be able to implement it and share that with your kids. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Now, you did say one thing I want to elaborate on. You said that you live with your family. What does that do for you? What has it done for you, you feel like?
Man, big things. You mean as far as me being an active role in my family's life?
Whichever angle you want to take.
Man, first of all, being intentional with my legacy. So as a man, I'm one of those kind of individuals where I always question what is the nature of my existence.
Yes.
Because growing up, I didn't have like just an active. My daddy tried to play a role as much as he could, but he couldn't always be available, right? And so for my children, it's always been, how can I leave something greater than what I experienced. And I feel like that's the biggest role. So, man, it gives me something to look forward to. It's definitely a blessing. I've been married to my wife, who was an amazing woman, for 11 years this year. So, bro, just the significance of having a legacy, to be a part of something that's bigger than you, is probably the biggest blessing I have in being active in my family.
That's beautiful. Now, we talked about one thing positive. We got to keep that same energy for balance.
Negative.
Nick, come on. Tell us one thing.
Okay. One thing negative. Challenges of overcoming aspects of yourself that's not always ideal. That's what I say is negative. So usually in our life, it's common for us to be passive. But one thing I do is evaluate areas of where I would like to grow. That's a challenge. So I would say imposter syndrome. I'm doing a lot of new projects that hasn't been easier. And you know how you go through those growth stage where you make a lot of mistakes. And it's difficult, and sometimes we don't have that compassion for ourselves. So if I had to say one thing negative, it'd probably be that.
Where can people find you? You know, you talk about your works, the book. How do we get in contact with you?
So I'm on Facebook, Donelle Cole, D-O-N as in Nancy, E-L-L-E, last name Cole, C-O-L-E. You can find me on Instagram as Almighty Already, A-L-M-I-G-H-T-Y, and Already. Man, you can even email me. So yeah, I'm easy to be found. You can Google me, Donelle Cole, everywhere Donelle Cole.
So you published the book. Do you recommend self-publishing or going the traditional route through a third party?
I think it depends on your goal. So I personally never publish with an organization. The reason why is because I love to have the creative control over my own work. But I have friends who have published with organizations where they've been able to get a larger market. So as a pro, self-publishing, I love it because it takes me through the steps of all of it. So I have a thorough understanding of what I'm actually getting involved in versus leaving that ownership and that power onto another company. You own it. I feel like in life, we've done a lot as far as contribution, but ownership hasn't been a big part of our culture.
Right.
So that's the reason why I chose to do that. It allows me to build a mass following, just like having your own podcast. I mean, you could partner with somebody else, but there's nothing like owning your own and being a part of different development stages within it.
That process of stubbing your toe and making those mistakes.
Absolutely.
So now you have something to recollect later on in life when it presents itself again in a different,
That's right.
in a different way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the process. From an idea in my mind to writing it on a paper to getting it digital, getting it ready to print, the barcodes, the illustrations. Walk us through that.
Man, you know, I think you actually said it. Just point by point, step by step, how you just said it. So my first book, I actually had a book coach who walked me through a lot of it and I'll tell you the two most important parts is really the editing, which is, you know, beginning of stages, and also the book cover. So the way I do my process whenever I'm writing a book is I always focus on these three main premises. Is what do you want them to know, how do you want them to feel, and what do you want them to do? So I always start with the tone of an idea of a concept of what I want to do. When I'm writing, I may start with a major point, something that I want to deliver, something that I want significant that I would like to leave as far as an impact, and I build my whole outline from that. Just like with the Caterpillar's Dream, I started with the identity. It was like, okay, how can I convey this message? What would be the best way for the audience to be able to receive this? And considering kids usually work with images, that's what I focus my main on. But when you first start a book, like you mentioned, if you do a KDP, which a lot of people do it that way, they actually give you an ISBN. I actually went and bought a bulk of ISBNs on Boiker.com just because I wanted to own the creative rights once again. Get you a graphic designer, unless you design the graphics yourself, to get your idea image, figure out what that looks like. I write every single day, whether it's small, whether it's big, whether it's one sentence, one word. I'm always writing just a little bit and making sure, and then I gather perspectives from all different types of individuals. Usually what I'll do is I'll post a concept like a question on Facebook to see how they gravitate towards it, what resonates most with individuals, to help me with the writing process. And then also what that does too is if I can write like cliff notes as I write, I find one or two things that really stick out that people like most, that keeps their attention. Usually you'll see people share it, And that's kind of how I do my marketing. So I keep a tab on that as I'm going through my notes and figure out what resonated most with them. And so by the time I get my book cover, I post that image online. I may do it with the word or 2 words, and I might do like a PayPal account where you can start your pre-sales. And really, bro, you can really have, your pre-sales can really fund your whole project if you do it the right way. If you deliver a book on Tuesday, as I don't know if you all know, but if you do it on Tuesday, you can actually start doing pre-sales and become a bestseller before your book actually comes out. And that's the route that most people end up doing whenever they come to publishing books.
Oh, that's beautiful. Walk us through some of those pros of self-publishing. I know we touched more on. I want to just focus in on that one aspect.
Okay.
Some of the things you found to be enjoyable, and then on the same tip, on the same energy, some of the cons, just so people know exactly when it comes to self-publishing.
Man, so I would say some of the pros. From a psychological standpoint, healing. Healing. Being able to go through the process of writing, it allows you to have an expression to be able to dive into aspects of yourself that we don't always get to go into, such as being an author. Sometimes people have that insecurity of not feeling worthy of telling their story. A second pro would be the people that you can reach. You never know how many lives you can impact from your story. To us, usually when we step into it, it seems like a small deal, but the people that I've impacted with my body of work, there's no price that I could ever put on it. There's a lady that was going through depression that I helped out. Another kid that didn't think he was going to graduate, didn't even have a desire to graduate. They decided to see the idea of what he could achieve. Mentorship programs came from my book that I didn't initially think it was going to happen. I've done videos. I've been a part of commercials, additional partnerships. Like I'm co-authoring another book right now. People that I admired and looked up to have been willing to work with me that I had no idea. The impression of people that you can touch long term, that you have no idea. Even after you die, there's still a lot of books that we read. And so it's just something that can live on forever that no one can ever take away from you. So that would be a few of the pros. The way you can make money, you can monetize your gift. That's a great thing. We're all looking for a means to have financial freedom. It can open up an additional stream of income. You can never have too many streams of income. Man, there's so many pros that I like with book writing. It's just amazing.
Same energy. What about the cons?
Cons, okay? It takes work.
Yeah.
It takes work. Your book is not going to write itself. Let's keep it a book. It won't write itself. You go through stages of evolution. So one thought that you thought would be cool at one point in time, everything moves exponentially. So excuse me. So things that I thought was cool as far as identity now, I'm like, man, it's vast. So you go through stages of it. If it doesn't sell, sometimes you get down on yourself. So I know for my first book, it sold a lot. And then your friends can only buy so much from you. So you have to have an expansive mindset where you have to market outside the common. So marketing is a big key component to any product, especially your book. If you're the kind of person that is looking to have validation from other people, I mean, that can be a difficult trend because everybody's not going to ride for every single project that you do. Yeah. There may be some things that you put out, right? Let me see. Another con.
We can say con or an obstacle. Little leeway.
Obstacle. I don't think that would be a bigger thing, bro. Getting your message out can be difficult if you don't have a strong, intellect in regards to marketing. And marketing, it changes so much in our dynamics. Although we can use social media, it can be a hustle. It's a hustle. It really is. So that can be one of the biggest barriers that I see in regards to authors, especially for an individual like me that has multiple different projects. And so I'm consistently trying to figure out ways to get my message out, to get my word out, and also ways for me to grow as a communicator and as a writer. Planning. Most people don't have a plan either. So I know that was one big thing for me. When I wrote my message, I wrote it as a person that's delivering a message. But if you're writing books, you also have to do it as a person that's selling a product. Yeah. And there's a difference. And the main difference is that if I'm telling you a message, it might be intriguing, it may be entertaining, but does it provoke enough where you feel like you want to go out and spend money on it for it to actually be something that you can support? And so I think that's a difference. Writing a message on Facebook, Facebook for people just to laugh and get likes is totally different from you trying to capitalize and monetize on a product that you want to release.
Now let's do this. Let's be specific with it. What is a plan? See what I'm saying? A lot of us,
I would say a plan is a detailed compass of specific things that you want to achieve. An ideal result.
Yeah.
A map is what a plan is. Specific goals, specificity, specific goals, a target, a deadline, and an ideal result of what you want to achieve. That's what your plan is going to be. It's just like if we get hungry, we know we got to eat. We need a plan of how we're going to be able to go get food. Got to go to a grocery store. What grocery store are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? When are we leaving? How much money do we need? And all that comes into play.
If you were able to do something again differently, what would you do?
With my book?
The book, ownership, intellectual property, in general.
If I can do anything different in regards to my books, what would I do differently? You know what? So the curriculum, I would have done the audiobook, curriculum, and everything all at the same time before I launched.
Okay.
So, and I'm kind of grateful for this, but I'm always on a time crunch sometimes because I'm thinking, and just like, I don't know how your life has been, but I've seen so many people pass and die before they scratch the surface of their purpose.
Yeah.
So when it comes to time, I'm usually like, let's get it done now. Let's get it done now. This one I took my time with, but I had a couple mentors that I sat down and actually had a conversation with, and they were like, this would be a great way to market it. I didn't think in terms of getting a business grant, which was phenomenal. So understanding the idea of what you can truly achieve in a project can be a really big advantage for you if you decide to author. So some people write a book, but they don't think about your book becoming a movie, like Harry Potter, right? All of these different stories, we don't think about that. And that's why it's important to own your ISBN if you decide to go that route. And the ISBN, for you guys that don't know, is basically a social security number for a book. Yeah. It's important to own that because if you decide maybe you want to do a movie or maybe you want to have different collaborations with it, that allows you to have multiple different, not just passive incomes, but also royalties for your body of work. So I think if I could have thought of anything before, it would have been thinking bigger than just publishing a book. And that's what I'm thinking now as far as partnering with the Board of Education. My friend has a nonprofit that I'm partnering with right now. Being able to do a curriculum, not just doing a curriculum, but making it to where teachers would have to be certified, and you being a certified educator be paid to go in and actually do what you do best, telling your story and having it be bigger than just a book, but having it be a transformative experience with other beings where you can help them evolve,
You touched on something I want to elaborate more on, the marketing, because that is a major part of just getting the word out when it comes to reaching different audiences and opening those doors. When it comes to releasing or marketing the book, what would you recommend for the people?
3 things. 1, join as many groups as you can. I don't think people tap into resources as often as we can. That's been big for me. Being a part of book publishing groups, I'm a part of 3 of them, and seeing the things that they go through, they navigate through, can help you out. So understanding that being a part of groups can really help you understand what are all the barriers. That way you can identify them before you even step into it. That's probably the biggest thing because that'll alleviate a lot of stress, especially for people who like to overplan. That'll help you out. And that also gets you marketing. 2, podcasts. I love podcasts. Podcasts are also awesome because once again, you get to collaborate with multiple different individuals. Whenever I have my own podcast as well called So What You Think, but there's also other individuals that I have just Facebook dialogues with. I I have a men's group called Modern Manhood Masterclass that we just launched that, we're talking about these different things, plans, goals, vision, which can help you with it. Joining other tribes. Also hosting events. Hosting events I think is pretty huge because even like I just did a book signing, but I did my book signing probably after selling 500 books. But just doing that event allows me to sharpen my skills. It allows me to build a presence with other individuals, but it also allows me to be able to collaborate with other business owners to make that impact in the community, to spread awareness on the things that we're wanting to do.
Speaking on the book signing, what's the pros and cons of it, and would you recommend it?
You still there?
You hear me okay? Mic check?
I can hear you.
There we go. When it comes to the book signing, what are some of the pros and cons of it, and would you recommend it?
Man, yes. I highly recommend a book signing. I recommend book signings because, first of all, awareness. Man, if people don't know who you are, how are they going to know how to support you? And you can do multiple book signings. And so my friend actually owns a boutique, local business, and this is a mutual partnership, which is great because it brought a lot of business to her. I have a friend that has a snow cone truck.
Plug them in there.
Right next.
Plug them in.
Huh?
Say plug them in.
Yeah, Emmanuel Sasino.
Yeah.
They have an intentional fitness gym on 23rd Northeast 23rd Street. Bell's Boutique and Books and Boutique is on Northeast 23rd as well. So she has a bookstore, library, local Black-owned business, right? And so by partnering with them, we're driving traffic to these businesses for them businesses to be able to get recognition, to be able to expand, and also be able to get the word out. And then this also allows us to open up way more events. Sometimes we're looking for opportunities instead of creating opportunities. And that's a big key component in doing book signs. I have a partnership with 3 different libraries. So I'm going to do multiple different book signings because it allows people to be able to connect with me. It allows for me to be able to connect in my community and not only be able to receive that support, but also give back into my community as well. So I think book signings are a big, big deal. Cons. If you're not the kind of people that like being around people, then it's probably not going to be a big deal for you. But I like it. Also, if you're the kind of person that gets more wrapped up in who's going to be there, then it may not be, ideal for you. Because sometimes, once again, there was people that said they were going to make it, but they were unable to make it there, which that sometimes can be a downturn for some people, a down spiral, not ideal for some individuals. So, money, sometimes you may have to invest money up front, like if you're going to have food. That can be a deal breaker, depending on how much money you have to invest in it. But for my book signing personally, I really did like this book signing because I wrote this book with my family. So my family was able to be there together. I see my dad, who I don't hardly get to see my dad too often. My little brother was able to be there to see his big brother writing the book, doing this. There's a guy named Steven who has a business called Steven's Creations. Kid is 16 and he makes cheesecakes for a living.
Yes.
And so I hired him to come out for him to be able to see what it's like and him to be able to share that moment with his mom. And so young entrepreneurs being able to know what it's like to be able to have a dream, bring it to manifestation. I love doing things like that because it ends up being bigger than who we are. And then from that one event, Bell's Boutique was like, man, you know what? We made more money today than we made all week because of this event. And so a lot of individuals, not only did they buy a book, but they was able to support a local business and bring a lot more impact than they was even aware of in that moment in time, and leave with some awesome stuff too.
And that's what I'm learning is key, no, not key, imperative, is representation. People need to see. I like the audio. I'm more comfortable with audio. I'm going to have to transition to the video eventually. People want to see. And they need to see.
Right.
And so that's one of the things I'm finding to be extremely important. Another thing is, like you already stated, partnerships, collaborating. Walk us through why you feel partnerships and collaborating are so important. And what does somebody need to do in order to get that started?
Man, 2 things. It's always good to learn from other people. I have a philosophy where I'll be like, that's the only reason why God created us all. It's for the receiver to have a receiver for his thoughts, for the thinker to have a receiver for his thoughts. And just like my book, everybody is not created equal. We're not all created equal. We have all distinct things that are advantages, but we also have weaknesses. So it's good to be able to partner with people that can complement areas where you lack, for one. For two, I feel like partnerships are important because iron sharpens iron. I don't know everything, right? I'll be the first person to admit that. I don't know everything. So it's beautiful to be able to have a relationship with another individual in which you can grow with. Three, that's what relationships for. I feel like relationships were created to mirror aspects of ourselves that we're often unconscious of. You get to know who you really are when you're in relationships with other individuals. Just like your pet peeves, you don't see that unless there's somebody else involved, right? Four, there is a quote by Jim Rohn. He says, osmosis may be the only cure for mental deficiency, meaning that another person's consciousness, the way that they think, can evolve you as a human being and break off a lot of areas that you've been hurt, that's been difficult for you to evolve past, right? So being around the right kind of individuals can really help you maximize your potential versus being by yourself. I'm not saying you should be codependent, but I'm saying that sometimes people have energy that they can speak into your life and really break strongholds within who you are. Man, think of all the amazing things that's happened in the world. Miracles have happened in community. People hold you accountable in community. There's so many benefits to partnerships. Things that's happened in my life, I would not have been able to do without having the right people in my life as far as partnerships. I got adopted at the age of 17 by a woman named Patricia Jarrett, who was one of the first African-American police officers ever in Oklahoma. And what was so dope about her is she was able to see something in me that I couldn't see in myself. And because she saw that in me, that made me want to go and pursue, what is it that you see in me? Because I don't see this. And a lot of times you will have people that speak life into you, that will see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And that in itself can cause a ripple effect that can really transition and change everything in your life.
And at this moment, I'm gonna talk to the listeners with this one. You've heard what he has to say. It's easier emotionally to say I'm gonna do it by myself. I bet it feels good too. When you sit down at the end of the day and you look at what you have to do, it's so much more convenient, so much more holistic. And the longevity of working together puts us on a different area. So let's think of why and where that mindset came from, that we need to do this independently. Because no other community, in my opinion, has this mindset. So where did we get it? I challenge you to think about that. Now, usually what I do at the conclude, give the listeners your dying words. What would you want people to come away with, and the last thing you want them to hear from you, at least in this context?
Man, I would say one of the most profound things that I could probably leave with people is that understanding that growth has to be an intention in your life. You won't always get everything that you set out to, but one thing you can control is your intention, and it's our superpower. Willingness is one of the most extraordinary traits that's often under-exercised. Being willing, saying yes to yourself, figuring out what it feels to honor yourself and walking through and having an ideal image of what your highest being looks like, and then striving to always honor that being by walking in alignment with what you call to become. Oftentimes we sell ourselves so short in all of our endeavors because we have excuses, we have victim mentalities that we have to outgrow, and we really allow ourselves to be limited by the consciousness that everybody else want to project on us. If I could leave one thing, is figure out what your highest state of being looks like and do everything you can to fight to make that become a reality, because you're worth it.
And with that, we thank you for joining us on Specificity.
I appreciate you having me, my man. If you need anything else, let me know. I hope you guys were blessed by this session today. Have an amazing day. Be intentional on purpose.